I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am. 5 years ago, my life changed forever because of a lie my sister told. I'm Mark, 25M, and this is the story of how my sister Zoe, 29F, accused me of stealing her wedding fund, causing my entire family to disown me. Zoe and I used to be close when we were younger. We'd play together, share secrets, and defend each other against schoolyard bullies. But as we grew older, things changed. Zoe became more distant, focused on her social life and popularity. I was always the quieter one, preferring to spend time with a small group of friends or lose myself in books and video games. Our parents, Mom, 52F, and Dad, 54M, always tried to treat us equally, but it was clear that Zoe was their golden child. She excelled in school, was captain of the cheerleading squad, and seemed to breeze through life with ease. I, on the other hand, struggled with anxiety and found it hard to live up to their expectations. Despite our differences, I still cared about Zoe. When she announced her engagement to her boyfriend Tom, 30M, 3 years ago, I was genuinely happy for her. Our parents were overjoyed and immediately started planning for the wedding. They set up a special savings account, what they called the wedding fund, to help Zoe have her dream wedding. For 2 years, our parents put money into this fund. They made sacrifices, worked overtime, and even dipped into their retirement savings. Zoe was ecstatic, planning an extravagant wedding that would be the talk of the town. I thought it was a bit much, but I kept my opinions to myself. Then, about a year ago, everything fell apart. I came home one day to find my parents and Zoe waiting for me in the living room. The atmosphere was tense, and I could tell something was wrong. Zoe was in tears, and my parents looked furious. Dad stood up and asked me how I could do such a thing. Confused, I asked what he meant. That's when Zoe accused me of stealing the entire wedding fund. She claimed she had seen me sneaking into our parents' room, where they kept important documents, and that large sums of money had been disappearing from the account over the past few months. I was shocked. I hadn't done anything of the sort, and I told them so. But Zoe kept crying, saying she had proof. She showed them bank statements with withdrawals that coincided with times I had been home alone. She even had a grainy video from her phone that showed someone who looked like me entering our parents' room. I tried to explain that it wasn't me, that I would never steal from my family. But they wouldn't listen. Mom was sobbing, asking how I could betray them like this. Dad was shouting, calling me a thief and a disgrace to the family. Zoe just sat there, tears streaming down her face, looking at me with what seemed like a mixture of anger and pity. I begged them to believe me, to give me a chance to prove my innocence. But their minds were made up. Dad told me to pack my things and leave. He said I was no longer welcome in their home or their lives. Mom couldn't even look at me as I pleaded with her to reconsider. With nowhere else to go, I packed a bag and left that night. I crashed on a friend's couch for a few weeks, trying to figure out what to do next. I was devastated, not just because I had lost my family, but because they had so easily believed I was capable of such a horrible act. Over the next year, I struggled to rebuild my life. I found a small apartment and a job at a local bookstore. It wasn't much, but it was something. I tried reaching out to my family several times, sending emails and leaving voicemails, but they never responded. It was like I had ceased to exist in their world. The hardest part was the isolation. I lost touch with most of my extended family and old friends. Everyone seemed to believe Zoe's story, and no one wanted anything to do with me. I felt alone and abandoned, questioning everything I thought I knew about myself and my family. I threw myself into work and started taking online classes, trying to distract myself from the pain. I made a few new friends at the bookstore, but I was always guarded, afraid to let anyone get too close. The fear of being betrayed again was always there, lurking in the back of my mind. Last week, out of the blue, I received an email from my dad. My heart raced as I opened it, not sure what to expect. What I read left me stunned. Dad said that Zoe had confessed to lying about the stolen wedding fund. Apparently, she had been the one taking the money all along, using it to fund a lavish lifestyle with her friends and secretly pay off debts she had accumulated. The truth had come out when Zoe's fiancé Tom discovered her deception. He had found receipts for expensive purchases and confronted her about it. Unable to keep up the lie any longer, Zoe broke down and admitted everything to Tom and our parents. Dad's email was full of apologies. He said they were devastated by what Zoe had done and how they had treated me. He begged for my forgiveness and asked if we could meet to talk things over. Mom had apparently been crying for days, overcome with guilt for not believing her own son. I sat there, staring at the screen, a whirlwind of emotions coursing through me. Relief that the truth was finally out. Anger at Zoe for her betrayal and at my parents for their lack of faith in me. Sadness for the years of family life I had lost. And a small, traitorous spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could have my family back. But I don't know if I can forgive them. The pain of being cast aside so easily, of having my character questioned and my life upended, it's not something I can just forget. Part of me wants to ignore the email, to let them feel the same rejection and isolation I've felt for the past year. Another part of me is curious. What would happen if I met with them? Would they truly understand the depth of hurt they've caused? Could we ever rebuild the trust that's been so thoroughly shattered? I haven't responded to the email yet. I'm torn between the desire for closure and the fear of being hurt again. The life I've built for myself over the past year is small, but it's mine. Do I risk it all for the chance to reconnect with the family that threw me away? I don't know what to do. Should I meet with them? Try to rebuild our relationship? Or should I close this chapter of my life for good and move forward on my own? Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Reading your comments helped me gain perspective and gave me the courage to face this situation. After much consideration, I decided to respond to my dad's email. I told him I was willing to meet, but on my terms. I suggested a neutral location, a small cafe near my apartment, and made it clear that this meeting was not a guarantee of forgiveness or reconciliation. The meeting was set for last Saturday. I arrived early, my stomach in knots. As I sat there, sipping a coffee that tasted like cardboard, I saw them walk in, Mom, Dad, and to my surprise, Zoe. The moment they saw me, Mom burst into tears. Dad looked older than I remembered, his face lined with worry and guilt. Zoe couldn't meet my eyes, staring at the floor as they approached my table. We sat in awkward silence for a few moments before Dad cleared his throat and began to speak. He apologized again, his voice breaking as he described the regret and shame they'd been living with since discovering the truth. Mom reached out as if to touch my hand, but stopped short, unsure if the gesture would be welcome. Then Zoe spoke. She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed and filled with tears. She confessed everything, how she had been secretly struggling with a shopping addiction, racking up credit card debt she couldn't pay. She said she had panicked when Tom started talking about managing their finances together after the wedding. In a moment of desperation, she had come up with the plan to frame me for stealing the wedding fund. She described how she had manipulated the bank statements, used her amateur video editing skills to create the fake footage, and played on our parents' trust in her to sell the lie. As she spoke, I felt a mix of anger, pity, and disgust wash over me. When Zoe finished her confession, she broke down completely. Between sobs, she begged for my forgiveness, saying she knew she didn't deserve it, but that she would spend the rest of her life trying to make amends if I gave her the chance. I sat there, taking it all in. Part of me wanted to lash out, to make them feel even a fraction of the pain and loneliness I'd experienced over the past year. But mostly, I felt tired. Tired of carrying the weight of their betrayal, tired of being angry. I told them I needed time. That while I appreciated their apologies and explanations, trust isn't rebuilt in a day. I explained how their actions had affected me, the struggle to find housing and work, the loss of friends and family, the constant doubt and fear that had become my companions. Dad nodded, saying they understood and would respect whatever decision I made. Mom, still crying softly, asked if there was anything they could do to help make things right. I told them the best thing they could do right now was to give me space to process everything. As we were about to leave, Zoe handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for the full amount of the wedding fund, plus interest. She said it was the least she could do, though she knew it couldn't begin to make up for what she'd done. I left that meeting feeling drained but somehow lighter. The truth was out, and for the first time in a year, I felt like I could breathe freely again. But I'm still unsure about the future of my relationship with my family. I've decided to take some time for myself. I'm using part of the money Zoe returned to book a short trip, somewhere I can clear my head and think about what I want moving forward. I've told my family not to contact me for a while, that I'll reach out when I'm ready. As I pack for my trip, I find myself wondering, is it possible to forgive such a deep betrayal? Can a family torn apart by lies ever truly heal? I don't have the answers yet, but I hope this time away will help me find them. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and I've had time to reflect on everything that's happened. The trip I took was exactly what I needed, a chance to step back from the situation and really think about what I want for my future. I spent 2 weeks at a small beach town, far from the chaos of my family drama. The quiet gave me space to process my emotions and consider my options. I journaled, walked on the beach, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. When I returned, I decided to take a big step. I agreed to family counseling. It wasn't an easy decision, but I realized that if there was any chance of moving forward, we needed professional help to navigate this complex situation. We've had 3 sessions so far, and it's been intense. Our therapist, Dr. Anderson, has been great at mediating and helping us communicate effectively. She's pushed us to dig deep into the root causes of our family dynamics. One of the most revealing sessions was when we discussed the golden child/scapegoat dynamic that had existed between Zoe and me for years. My parents were shocked to realize how their behavior had contributed to this unhealthy pattern. Zoe broke down when she admitted that part of her resentment towards me stemmed from the pressure she felt to maintain her perfect image. Dr. Anderson has also been helping me work through my trust issues. She's encouraged me to express my feelings openly, which has been both terrifying and liberating. I've been able to tell my family exactly how their actions affected me, without filter or fear of repercussion. The hardest part has been rebuilding my relationship with Zoe. While I understand now that her actions came from a place of desperation and deep-seated insecurity, the hurt she caused is still very real. We've had some one-on-one sessions where we've really delved into our childhood and the events that led to this point. It's been painful, but also oddly cathartic. My parents have been making efforts to make amends. They've respected my boundaries and have been actively working on changing their behavior in therapy. Dad has been opening up about his own struggles with living up to his parents' expectations, which has helped me understand his perspective a bit better. Mom has been the most proactive in trying to rebuild our relationship. She's been sending me texts every few days, not pushing for responses but just letting me know she's thinking of me. Last week, she dropped off a care package at my apartment. It was filled with my favorite snacks from childhood and a heartfelt letter expressing her regret and hopes for our future. As for Zoe, she started seeing a therapist to work on her shopping addiction and the underlying issues that led to her destructive behavior. She's also been volunteering at a local community center as part of her effort to make amends. While I'm not ready to fully trust her again, I can see that she's genuinely trying to change. I'm still taking things day by day. Some days are better than others. There are moments when the old anger and hurt resurface, and I have to remind myself that healing is a process. But I can say that I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of my family relationships. I've also been focusing on my own personal growth. I've started taking some photography classes, something I've always been interested in but never pursued. It's been a great outlet and has helped me regain some of the confidence I lost during this ordeal. While we still have a long way to go, I feel like we're moving in the right direction. I'm learning that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened, but rather choosing to release the anger and move forward. It's not easy, but I'm committed to the process. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your words of encouragement have meant more than you know. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have progressed. The journey hasn't been easy, but I can honestly say that I'm in a much better place now than I was a year ago. We've continued with family therapy, though we've reduced the frequency to twice a month. Dr. Anderson has been instrumental in helping us navigate the complex emotions and rebuild trust. One of the most significant breakthroughs came when my parents finally understood the depth of the trauma their actions had caused me. Seeing them truly grasp the impact of their betrayal was a turning point in our healing process. My relationship with Zoe has seen the most dramatic change. While I don't think we'll ever be as close as we were as children, we've managed to forge a new, more mature relationship. Zoe has stuck with her therapy and has made real progress with her addiction. She's been sober from shopping for 4 months now and has started a support group for others struggling with similar issues. Last month, Zoe approached me with an idea. She wanted to use her experience to help others and asked if I would be willing to join her in starting a nonprofit organization focused on financial literacy and addiction support for young adults. At first, I was hesitant, but after giving it some thought, I agreed. Working on this project together has given us a chance to rebuild our bond in a positive way. My relationship is slowly improving with my parents. They've shown consistent effort in respecting my boundaries and have been working on their own issues in individual therapy. Dad has opened up about his struggles with expressing emotions, and Mom has been addressing her tendency to enable Zoe's behavior. I've had dinner with them a few times, and while it's still a bit awkward, it's getting easier. Last week, Dad and I even went fishing together, something we used to do when I was younger. It was nice to spend time together without the pressure of addressing our past issues. I've also started dating again. I met someone, Lisa, 27F, at a photography exhibition. She knows about my family history, and her support and understanding have been incredible. It's early days, but I'm cautiously optimistic about where this relationship might go. Looking back on the past year and a half, I'm amazed at how much has changed. The betrayal I experienced was painful beyond words, but it also forced me to confront issues in my family that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. While I would never wish to go through such an ordeal again, I can acknowledge that it has led to growth and healing that might not have happened otherwise. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. Your support and advice have been invaluable. While my story isn't over, I feel like I've closed a chapter and I'm ready to write the next one. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds, both for me personally and for my evolving relationships with my family. As I end this update, I want to leave you with this thought: sometimes the deepest wounds can lead to the most profound healing. It's not easy, and it's certainly not guaranteed, but with effort, patience, and the right support, it is possible to rebuild what once seemed irreparably broken.